Back, I'm Stephanie Ruhle. We're getting more reaction this morning to that BuzzFeed report that President Trump directed his longtime attorney and fixer, Michael Cohen, to lie to Congress about the Moscow Tower project. And again, NBC News has not confirmed this report, but the president's TV lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, told us, quote, "If you believe Cohen, I can get you a great deal on the Brooklyn Bridge." Well, no surprise, Democratic lawmakers are taking a more serious tone. Chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff, warning, quote, "We will do what's necessary to find out if it's true." While Senator Brian Schatz noted, "Everything feels like a bombshell, and we are all numb, but I'm pretty sure if this story is true, it is something that Congress must investigate thoroughly." Here to react, Phil Rucker, the White House bureau chief at the Washington Post, Shannon Pettypiece, White House correspondent for Bloomberg, and Michael and Jason still with me. Phil, we've seen lots and lots of developments on the Russia story. Why is this one different, or is it to you?
It feels different, Steph, certainly, because it's the president actually directing, if it's true, actually directing his lawyer, Michael Cohen, to lie to Congress. That is a federal crime, and that's also something where Trump could be held for a crime. I'm not a lawyer, but this certainly looks perilous for the president, and we're already hearing from Democratic members of Congress, talking about a full investigation of this and perhaps impeachment proceedings. We'll have to see. Now, we don't have this verified. This information is not verified at the Washington Post, and we're waiting to hear some more details and sort of piece this together. But the BuzzFeed reporting seems very troubling for the president.
Well, Democrats are to be expected. Wake me up when Republicans respond. Shannon, what stands out to you?
Well, I think one of the things that stuck out the most to me from this BuzzFeed report, and like Phil said, Bloomberg, we haven't independently verified any of this either, but going off the BuzzFeed report, saying that there were emails and documentation from the Trump org that back this up. Now, we don't know if those emails specifically back up the fact that President Trump directed Michael Cohen to, sort of mislead Congress about the timeline, or if those emails just back up the idea that the president knew about this deal, well into the summer, unlike they had been saying previously. The president does not use email, and he doesn't use text message either. So that's almost in the way, potentially one of his saving graces in all of this is that there's not much written record or paper trail. So there wouldn't be an email between Michael Cohen and Donald Trump discussing lying to Congress. But there could be from Michael Cohen and other people in the Trump organization saying, Donald Trump told me to say this. He told me to put this in my testimony. So that's the thing we need to look for, because the president's legal team is going to make Cohen out to be a liar. And the president's allies, on cable news, on talk radio, and even on the Hill, have already been saying, well, Cohen's a liar, he's a sleazeball, why should we believe anything he has to say? But if there's written proof, then we get to the point where it gets hard to look the other way, and it gets hard to discredit Cohen.
He may be both of those things, but he may not be the smoking gun. Michael, we played earlier Senator Amy Klobuchar's question to Bill Barr earlier this week on obstruction of justice, but it wasn't just Democrats. It was actually a bipartisan concern. Take a look.
So if there was some reason to believe that the president tried to coach somebody not to testify or testify falsely, that could be obstruction of justice.
Yes, under that. Yeah, under an obstruction statute, right. Yes.
So if there's some evidence that the president tried to conceal evidence, that would be obstruction of justice, potentially, right?
If this is true, could we see Republicans turn on the president?
I think you will. It will be a slow process, though. It's not going to be an immediate, okay, let's all hunker down and go and deal with this. There's still a great deal, a number of members who are very supportive of the president, who will stand by him, who believe, as he stated, that this is a witch hunt, that this is all made up. They don't believe the Cohen narrative. I've talked to a couple of people in the last, 12 hours or so, say like, oh, no, this is a whole lot ado about nothing, and taking the Rudy Giuliani approach, saying, well, Cohen, you can't believe Cohen. Well, but there are other corroborating sources here, and that's where it gets gnarly, because those other corroborating sources are actually supporting the narrative that Cohen is putting out there independently. So there is no collusion between those sources and Cohen. So that's where this gets sticky for those folks. And again, I go back to the point that was made in the last segment. Where is Mitch McConnell in this conversation is the most important player right now, because not only does he play a role in getting the government opened, but he will also play a role in whether or not the Senate moves in such a way to support whatever comes out of the House.
What will Mitch McConnell's next move be? I mean, Mitch McConnell, as it relates to the shutdown, he can point to Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump clowned him several weeks ago when McConnell had this thing done.
Yes.
And now he's sitting there in silence as the government is shut down, and people from his home state are calling, saying, I want my paycheck, and then a report like this comes out. What kind of position does that put Mitch McConnell in?
I think Mitch McConnell, we were just discussing this before, he's going to get burned again. Right? So Mitch McConnell's attitude is, this is all on the president. I am not going to make another move until he confirms what he's going to do. I already had egg on my face. I really think that Mitch McConnell's attitude right now is, unless he hears from the president of the United States, and we know Trump isn't going to do this, unless he hears, I will commit to this particular plan and I will sign this into law, Mitch McConnell seems to believe that he can get away with doing next to nothing. I don't think that's going to work. At some point, it's going to get him in trouble back in his home state. At some point, other senators are going to come to him and saying, we're getting into too much trouble. But that's what he believes right now about the shutdown. Now, the secondary thing is this. When it comes to this kind of report, I do think he's going to be in trouble. Assuming that Barr doesn't hide parts of the report, which is part of what we had in the testimony this week, I think when this report comes out, if you've got clear evidence, if there are email exchanges, yes, Trump doesn't use email, but if Ivanka is saying, yeah, Dad told me to tell you this, or blah, 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 I think that's a good way to talk to Congress. If those kinds of things come out either from Mueller's investigation or from Cohen, I don't think Mitch McConnell will be able to hold back his own Republicans in the Senate from saying we got to go forward with an investigation.
Except, of course, Phil Rucker, Mitch McConnell has protected the president. He has had the opportunity to take action to protect Robert Mueller, and he hasn't done so.
That's right. He's refused, rather, to take to the floor legislation that would protect the longevity of the special counsel's investigation. That's been going on for some time now. But Mitch McConnell is doing what his caucus wants, what the other Republican senators want. You know, there are not very many Republican senators in that majority who are willing to stand up to President Trump or feel comfortable challenging him, and that's because President Trump is so popular with Republican voters. These senators are afraid of primary challenges. They're afraid of crossing that Trump coalition. And McConnell himself is very cognizant of this because he is going to be on the ballot facing his own reelection in 2020. So while he's trying to manage, the Senate majority here in Washington, he's also thinking about his own personal political prospects back home in Kentucky.
Shannon, where's the president on this today? I mean, yes, this story came out late last night, but it was all over cable news. I watched Morning Joe for 3 hours. So did the president, and he hasn't said anything. Seems unlike him.
Right. It was discussed on, Fox News as well. We know his favorite morning TV channel. He has not said anything on this. I would assume his lawyers have told him not to. Often his lawyers tell him not to say things, but he says things anyway. So we will see. But you put up a comment from Rudy Giuliani, and I was, text messaging with him last night too. And I asked him, do you deny that the president never told Michael Cohen to lie about this timeline to Congress? And there was never a flat denial. There was just a, Michael Cohen, sort of attacking Michael Cohen's character, trying to divert the conversation into talk about Michael Cohen's, father-in-law. So there has not been a big blanket denial out from the White House or the president's lawyers saying the president never directed Michael Cohen to lie to Congress.
Shannon, late night texting with Rudy Giuliani. Did you ever think that was going to be your life, sister? It's another level right there.
It's a life of kings.
Late night texting with Rudy. Wow. Up next, hundreds of thousands